From Hollywood, it's your Hit Connection, American Top 40. Hi, I'm Shadoe Stevens with radio's top songs, direct from the official Billboard chart. This week, a superstar breaks his own record with his latest hit. We'll talk to Kenny G, Jade, and Duran Duran. We've got an AT40 sneak peek from one of the year's hottest albums. It's a busy boss in AT40 music news. I'll read a long-distance dedication from Croatia that gives us all something to think about. And we'll find out if Janet Jackson still rules the top of the chart. And away we go. A debut gets us started. Song by a four-man band out of Long Beach, California called Stone Temple Pilots. Been getting a big alternative buzz, and now they have their first hit. Their singer, who just goes by the name Weiland, says, "We're not just plug in, crank up to 10, let's rock. Our music has more sides to it." And this is one side. From their album Core, here's Stone Temple Pilots and Plush.
We're counting down now to the Stone Temple Pilots, a band with thousands of new fans, and that's something their lead singer thinks is pretty strange. You see, when he was younger, he had only one fan, an imaginary friend named Pugus. Details coming up.
Casey's Coast to Coast. Casey's Top 40.
On Casey's Top 40, I'm David Perry for Casey Kasem. Now we're up to the Stone Temple Pilots, a band with thousands of new fans, and that's something their lead singer thinks is pretty strange. Here's why. The lead singer of the Stone Temple Pilots goes only by his last name, Weiland. And Weiland says he wasn't very happy when he was a child. Weiland says he just didn't fit in. He always felt like an outsider. Quote, "I was a pretty apathetic and lonely kid." Weiland tried to be popular in school, but he never was. He thinks his ideas and feelings were just too dark and depressing for the other kids. And at one point in his childhood, he was so lonely, he did what a lot of solitary kids do. Weiland invented an imaginary friend, a character named Pugus. When he was alone, Weiland talked to Pugus all the time. And at one point, Pugus became so real to Weiland that when things went wrong, he used to blame them on his imaginary friend. Well, as Weiland entered adolescence, Pugus faded into the background. And after high school, when Weiland joined a band, he started writing down his dark thoughts and feelings. With the help of his bandmates, he turned those thoughts into songs. And that's when something mysterious and wonderful began to happen. People began to listen to Weiland's songs and identify with them. And he started making real friends. And that's what Weiland thinks is so strange. The same gloomy thoughts that made him an outsider in high school have now won him fans and helped make him one of the hottest new singer-songwriters in rock and roll. And this week, the man who once had invented an imaginary friend to keep him from getting lonely has lots of friends here on the survey.
Casey's Top 40.
Well, now we're up to the current hit by Stone Temple Pilots. Their lead singer recently fulfilled a lifelong dream by buying a house close to the ocean. The lead singer of Stone Temple Pilots is Scott Weiland, and Scott's a musician who has a real love of water. He doesn't know when this love started, but he says he's always had a semi-mystical attachment to the wet stuff. He says it was especially strong when he was growing up. Coming from a broken family, Scott says he was subjected to a lot of stress when he was a kid. But his love of H2O helped pull him through. He says that whenever he was too upset to deal with everything that was going on around him, he'd go into the bathroom, lock the door, and fill the tub with water. Then he'd lie down, floating in the water, until his anxiety went away. He says his favorite TV show in those days was Flipper, and that he identified so strongly with the undersea mammal in the lead role that back then he says his greatest desire was to be a dolphin when he grew up. Though Scott's given up his dream of growing up to be a dolphin, he hasn't given up his love of water. He says to this day, the best way for him to get rid of the day's stress is to fill up the tub and let his troubles float away. And that's why recently, with the money he earned from Stone Temple Pilot's success, he made a dream come true by buying a house a few blocks from the ocean in Topanga Canyon, just north of Los Angeles. This week, the water lover and his band have survey song number 37 on Casey's Top 40. Here's Scott Weiland and Stone Temple Pilots with Big Empty.
American Top 40.
Playing the hits back to back, it's your best friend ever in the void, the shadow. Next, a band known for dark subjects in their songs, and part of that comes from the often troubled lyrics written by the lead singer, who's had a traumatic life of his own. The saddest part may be that the story of Scott Weiland and Stone Temple Pilots isn't so unusual. He was born Scott Kent in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, a child of divorce. His parents split up when he was only 2, and his mother remarried. Weiland is his stepfather's name. Until his teens, Scott lived with his mother, a real estate agent in Ohio, and then spent summers in California with his father. Scott told Details magazine it wasn't just a one-time experience, but an enduring pain. As soon as I got to feeling love and closeness, I would have to leave him. Now, Scott's father had remarried and had another son, 9 months younger than Scott. They'd play together on summer visits. Then when Scott was 11, his stepbrother was hit by a car and died. And the visit stopped. He didn't see his father for almost 8 years, until last year. Stone Temple Pilots were on tour, and Scott's father came to one of the shows, and Scott says, after all these years of denying I had this other life, seeing him, hearing him say that he was so proud of me, triggered these emotions that I had never dealt with. I completely broke down, and I didn't know why I was so hysterical. I actually called my mother to seek solitude in her words. That's Scott Weiland's story. At number 24 in American Top 40, here's Stone Temple Pilots.
Casey's Top 40.
I'm Casey Kasem. These are the week's biggest hits from 40 to number 1, and we're counting them down. Moving down 4 notches to number 34 is Stone Temple Pilots, a band that played together for 6 years before earning a recording contract in 1992. This is their third Top 40 hit, Interstate Love Song.
American Top 20. Top 20.
Every week, American Top 20's heard coast to coast and around the world on great radio stations like the new Mix 102.9, the best mix of the 80s and 90s, Dallas, Texas. Today's hits, yesterday's favorites, WBSQ-FM, Bridgehampton, New York. KIKO 1340, the best of today's hits and yesterday's favorites, Miami, Arizona. And The Shore's best mix, 106.3, Cambridge, Maryland. Well, now we're up to an American Top 20 Extra. A band silenced by their lead singer's drug addiction. Now he's clean and sober and making music on his own. The Stone Temple Pilots rocketed onto the scene back in 1993, hitting big with alternative rock songs like Plush, Creep, and Interstate Love Song. But as the band grew more successful, its lead singer Scott Weiland grew more troubled. Even though he'd been in rock bands since he was 16 years old, success and all its consequences were hard for him to deal with. For 3 years, he struggled with heroin addiction, going in and out of recovery programs. During one 12-month period, he went into recovery 3 times. Finally, in 1997, his fellow band members just gave up. They disbanded Stone Temple Pilots and formed a new group called Talk Show. Scott was alone, and that may have been the inspiration he needed to kick his habit and start all over again. This time, he's trying to make it as a solo act. He just put out his first solo album titled 12 Bar Blues, and on it he's recorded songs that reflect the music of his musical heroes, David Bowie, the Beatles, the Doors, and Brian Wilson. As they say in Alcoholics Anonymous, Scott is optimistic but cautious. He says, I feel lucky to be alive. I've tried to learn from my mistakes. Now, here's an American Top 20 Extra by Scott Weiland when he was a member of Stone Temple Pilots. From 1993, this was their first hit, Plush.
The hits from coast to coast.